They don't need chains anymore. They don't need walls, guards, or laws to keep you in place. Modern slavery doesn't look like shackles, it looks like a dopamine crash. It looks like brain fog. It looks like a man sitting alone in the dark, wondering why he can't seem to get his life together after scrolling and releasing for the third time today. Because a depleted man doesn't need to be controlled. He controls himself. He builds his own cage, and he never even realizes he's trapped. Look around you, really look. The men you see slouched over their phones, avoiding eye contact. The ones who agree to everything, challenge nothing, and just fade into the background. They aren't weak by accident, they are weak by design, because somewhere along the way, society figured out something the old empires never quite mastered. You don't need force to control a population of men, you just need to keep them empty. Empty of energy, empty of drive. And what's the fastest way to empty a man? Give him unlimited private access to artificial pleasure. Then, just watch as his biology does the rest. Every time he releases, he's not just losing a fluid. He's losing the fire that makes tyrants nervous, the clarity that makes him question authority. A depleted man doesn't start revolutions, he doesn't build empires, he just refreshes the feed. Again and again, waiting for someone to tell him what to do next. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is biology, weaponized. Let me show you exactly how depletion becomes control. Your body has a hierarchy of needs. Survival first, reproduction second. Everything else, ambition, creativity, leadership, those are luxuries. They only activate when your system believes you're thriving. But when you're constantly releasing, your body thinks you've already won the genetic lottery. It thinks you've successfully reproduced thousands of times. So, it shifts into permanent recovery mode. And in recovery mode, you're not building, you're just surviving. Here's what happens inside your body the moment you finish. Prolactin floods your bloodstream. This hormone's job is simple. Shut everything down. It lowers your motivation and increases fatigue. In nature, this state lasts for a few hours. But when you're doing this daily, multiple times a day, your prolactin levels never fully drop. You're living in a constant state of suppression, and suppressed men are easy to manage. Then there's dopamine, the neurochemical of desire and drive. Every time you flood your system with artificial spikes from pixels on a screen, your baseline drops lower. Your brain adapts by reducing its dopamine receptors. Soon, nothing real excites you. Not your goals, not your work, not actual challenges. You become numb, passive, just waiting for the next hit. And a passive man doesn't threaten power structures, he serves them. Meanwhile, your testosterone, the hormone that makes you competitive, assertive, and willing to take risks, crashes after every release. And while it recovers a bit, the constant cycle keeps you in a low-T state. This doesn't just affect your body, it affects your mind. It impacts your willingness to stand up for yourself, your ability to say no, your capacity to lead. The modern world didn't need to ban masculinity, it just needed to make you drain it yourself, for free, in private, every single day. That isn't freedom. That's the most efficient form of control ever invented. Let's break down the exact biological mechanisms that turn depletion into obedience. First, the dopamine cage. Imagine your motivation as a default setting when you're constantly chasing artificial highs. That setting plummets. Studies on chronic overstimulation show a reduction in D2 dopamine receptors in the brain, the same pattern seen in drug addiction. Your brain literally becomes less sensitive to rewards. What does this mean in real life? Starting a business feels like too much effort. Approaching someone you're interested in feels too uncertain. Building something meaningful seems too slow, so you stay where it's easy, scrolling, consuming, and releasing. Getting just enough of a dopamine hit to not feel completely dead, but never enough to actually live. That's control through neurochemistry. Second, prolactin suppression. After you release, prolactin can spike by up to 400%. This is your body's emergency brake. It lowers testosterone, increases anxiety, and disrupts your sleep. But here's the most potent part. High prolactin actively blocks dopamine activity. So, you're getting hit twice. Your motivation is drained by dopamine depletion, and what's left is actively suppressed by prolactin. A man in this state doesn't challenge his boss or question unfair systems. He just complies, because compliance is easier than the exhaustion of thinking for himself. Third, the testosterone collapse. After release, testosterone drops significantly for up to 48 hours. One study found a 45% spike in testosterone after just 7 days of retention. But most men never make it 7 days. They're stuck in a cycle of depletion, their testosterone never reaching optimal levels. And testosterone isn't just about muscles, it's about assertiveness, confidence, and the willingness to compete. Low testosterone makes you agreeable and non-threatening, exactly what any system of control wants. Fourth, the prefrontal cortex shutdown. Your prefrontal cortex is your brain's CEO. It handles decision-making, impulse control, and long-term planning. Chronic dopamine dysregulation and poor sleep literally impair its function. Brain scans show reduced activity in this region among people with compulsive behaviors. The translation: you can't think strategically anymore. You become reactive, impulsive, and focused only on the short term. A man who can't think long-term can't build long-term power. He's just stuck in survival mode. This is why every totalitarian regime in history tried to control sexuality. They knew instinctively what science now proves: a man's sexual energy is his source of power. Deplete it, and you don't need to conquer him. He's already conquered himself. Now, imagine the opposite. Imagine what you've become when you stop feeding this machine. Week 1, your testosterone begins to climb. That 45% spike at day 7 isn't just a number. It's a shift in how you see the world. Challenges that seemed impossible start looking manageable. Your dopamine receptors begin to upregulate, meaning your brain is becoming sensitive again. Food tastes better, music hits differently. You're coming back online. Week 2, your sleep deepens as prolactin normalizes. You wake up feeling alert and ready. There's an energy in your chest you haven't felt in years. People at work notice. You're sharper in meetings. Your ideas have more weight. When you speak, people listen, not because you got louder, but because you became present. Week 3, the mental fog lifts. That feeling of thinking through mud is gone. You read faster. You remember more. You make connections you couldn't before. You start carrying yourself like someone who can handle more responsibility, and people begin to treat you that way. Week 4, this is where it gets dangerous for the system. You start asking questions. Why am I settling for this? Why am I tolerating this situation? You aren't angry. You're awake. And awake men are ungovernable. By week 8, you've started making moves. You started that side business, ended that dead-end relationship, or signed up for that opportunity you've been thinking about for years. The people around you change. The friends who pulled you down fade away, and you find yourself drawn to people who build you up. You stop chasing validation and start moving with purpose. And nothing scares the system more than a man moving with purpose. He doesn't wait for permission. He builds, he leads, he rises. And the cage you didn't even know you were in, you just walk right through it. The ancient Taoists called this vital essence DJing. They warned that losing DJing was losing power, not just physical strength, but your capacity to influence reality itself, to shape the world instead of being shaped by it. This is why warrior cultures, from the Spartans to the samurai, practiced some form of sexual discipline. Not because they hated pleasure, but because they understood the trade-off: a brief release versus sustained power, temporary satisfaction versus permanent presence. Your sexual energy is your creative energy, your life force. The Stoics knew this too. Marcus Aurelius wrote about self-mastery not as punishment, but as the path to freedom. The man who controls his urges controls his destiny. This isn't about morality, it's about sovereignty. Every time you retain that energy and transmute it into something higher, you are making a declaration. I am not for sale. I am not programmable. I am reclaiming the fire the modern world tried to sedate. That isn't abstinence, it's rebellion. So here's what you do, starting right now. First, understand what's at stake. This isn't just self-improvement. It's about whether you live as a free man or a biological slave. That's the choice you make every single day. Second, commit to 30 days. Not forever, just 30. In 30 days, you'll see the difference between who you've been and who you're capable of becoming. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Third, when the urge comes out, it will ask yourself one simple question. Who benefits if I give in? Not you. You get a few seconds of pleasure followed by days of depletion. The algorithm benefits. The industry benefits. The system that needs you passive benefits. But you would just get weaker. So, transmute it. The moment you feel that energy rise, redirect it. A cold shower, lift weights. Go for a run until your lungs burn. Write, create, build something. That energy is meant to create life. 30 days, that's all. Then you can decide if the cage was worth it. The fact that you're still watching means something in you has recognized the truth. The system is counting on you to forget this feeling and go back to your old patterns. But you won't, because now you know. Every time you resist, you're not just preserving energy. You're breaking your programming. You are choosing sovereignty over slavery. The depleted man is easy to control. The retained man is impossible to break. Which one are you becoming? The choice has always been yours. Thank you for watching. If this message resonated with you, subscribe and join the rebellion.